Okay, so hello everyone. So first, welcome to our webinar. This is Sherry from Huizhong Industry Service Center, and I will be hosting today. So today our webinar is part of an event of the Nanjing Tech Week, and which is jointly organized by Nanjing Qilin Technology Innovation Park and Huizhong Industry Service Center. And at the beginning, I'll broadcast a short video clip about Nanjing Qilin, and then we'll start straight. Okay, so please.
In lush mountains and waters, see the purple word where the Qilin dwells, the land is blessed. This is where ancientness and the modern beliefs intertwine, where nature and humanity harmonize, and where the god-animal carvings inspire its identity. Emerging from hundreds of years of history, it has inherited the genes for innovation and power for development, and is elevating China's vistas for building intelligent cities. This is Nanjing Qilin High-Tech Industry Development Zone. With green mountain ranges sprawling like dragons, it is the juncture for the Yunliang River, the Shangba River, and the Baishui River. With sound access to mountains and rivers, this development zone has been committed to high-end planning for high-quality development since its inception, having been inscribed into the third catalog for China-Germany low-carbon ecological zones. It draws on German low-carbon and ecological criteria. Its super green lawn, stretching 7.2 million square meters along the 3-kilometer-long riverbank, offers an inexhaustible drive for R&D and innovation. The garden-style office area is favored by elites from numerous enterprises. Seat to 3-rail rapid transits, a multi-tiered highway network, and flights across the globe. It narrows the gap between man and nature, and between the city and the world. Spearheading Nanjing, Chengdong Innovation and Science Belt, it is adjacent to Shanling University City to the north and Jiangning University Town to the south, covering about 30 universities, including Nanjing University and Nanjing University of Science and Technology. By leveraging the assets of universities and local regions, it unleashes momentum for innovation and development. Science is the foundation for a nation's prosperity, and innovation the soul for progress. Shouldering the missions for building a core district for Nanjing's innovation capacity, a comprehensive R&D center, and a landmark for Jiangsu's science and technology capability, it attracts innovation assets and professionals from Chinese Academy of Sciences, collaborates with top research institutes, and carries out full-swing development of Nanjing Qilin Science and Technology City. In early 2018, the 30-square-kilometer core zone at the eastern wing officially commenced construction, following the structural plan of 1 center and 3 areas. The comprehensive R&D center installs fundamental science facilities, national key laboratories and platforms, focuses on basic research, and spearheads innovation in science. The commercialization area implements commercialization projects for high-tech enterprises and R&D organizations, aiming to foster a headquarters cluster of state-owned R&D enterprises. The supporting area provides characteristic innovation service platforms and increases efficiency for innovation ecosystems. The residential area constantly improves access to high-quality housing, commercial complexes, and public services. The Nanjing School of CAS University incorporating R&D, training, and incubation is established in the Science and Technology City for integrated development. The Innovation Institute is undergoing steady growth, attracting nearly 10 R&D organizations for residents. CAS Nanjing AI Chips Innovation Academy, CIS Shanghai Pasteur Qilin Innovation Academy, and CAS Nanjing Innovation Academy for mobile communications and computing have been under operation, unveiling a grand chapter of the rise of Qilin Science and Technology City. Pool strength for shared future. By carrying out innovation-driven development, the Development Zone targets industry-specific, accurate business attraction and fosters landmark industries, introducing over 2,000 innovative enterprises. Good Boy, a unicorn, epitomizes landmark enterprises of the Development Zone, and START's Jiangsu headquarters is landed and operated here. Characteristic industry cluster of AI, biotechnologies, communications technologies, and environmental sustainability gradually takes up shape. With plentiful universities and institutes contributing in establishing research transfer and application centers, it will develop into a characteristic innovation cluster in the Yangtze River city clusters, focusing on HR, capital, technology, and management demands. It centers on science and innovation at the heart and builds an ecosystem for innovating industries, finance, business models, and management practices. Having achieved remarkable results in building innovation service systems, introducing such assets, bolstering financial support, and enhancing talent retention guarantee, it has boosted long-term development for enterprises, syncing with the time and docking with the future. With balanced development of headquarters bases, intelligent industrial parks, ecological parks, and innovation zones, a livable, high-quality new development zone featuring city industry integration will arrive. A pioneering and innovative spirit for guidance. It gathers momentum for a leapfrog. At the start of a new era, Qilin, an auspicious land for investment and startup, expects to join hands with you to set sail for a brighter future.
Okay. So hello everyone, thank you for watching. So whoever just joined our webinar, that is a broadcast video of the Nanjing Qilin Technology Innovation Park. So we'll start here. I'll introduce again for myself. This is Sherry from Huizhong Industry Service Center, and I will be hosting the day. So we're gonna talk about topics post-pandemic development, 5G, and new infrastructure action in China. Okay, so now I'll introduce our guest today. So the first guest we invite today is Mr. Patrick Dizou, co-founder and CEO of Startup Bootcamp. Hello, Patrick.
Hello, good morning, Cherry.
Good morning, welcome to our webinar. Very glad to have you here. So I know that you are not only the co-founder and CEO of Startup Bootcamp, you are also very active in the innovation ecosystem, doing a variety of things. So could you please briefly introduce yourself, what you are doing, and who you are to our audiences?
Sure, I'm Patrick. I'm live now from Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Beautiful day outside. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, so I love to take things from what we call 0 to 1. So coming up with new ideas, don't think a lot about it if they will actually work, but just try them. And in the last 10 years, we've built 3 different kind of businesses, all in the innovation domain. One of them helping early stage startups and scale-ups grow across the world. We do this in 15 countries across the world. This is called Startup Bootcamp. We've invested in over 1,000 companies in the last 10 years. So it's a huge portfolio of early stage companies, and we're adding about 150, 200 each year again. So it's growing the portfolio. Secondly, we've built a company that we call InnoLeaps. It's a sister company of Startup Bootcamp, where we help global corporations innovate the startup way. So how do you bring, as a large corporation, new ideas to the market quickly, at speed, against low cost? And thirdly, we've built a company that's called the Talent Institute, where each year we train about 500 young digital innovators and growth hackers. So it's all in the growth domain, in the innovation domain, in startups and scale-ups. And that's what I love to do best, creating something out of nothing, basically, and seeing if it ever actually flourishes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you for your introduction. So the second guest we invite today is Mr. Marcus Grundmann, partner of Sinovo. So Sinovo is an investment company that focuses on the early stage of SaaS and IoT investment. So hello, Marcus.
Hello, thank you. So as a brief background, I have 20 years experience in the software industry. I graduated already from university as a software developer, spent 6 years in software development, and actually then moved into management and strategy consulting. And now for 8 years, I'm a B2B SaaS investor. So we invest predominantly along 3 major themes. One is the automation of all types of human processes. Second one is the automation of all things, intelligent machines, that goes from IoT to Industry 4.0. And the third layer is the data platform. So the common theme, if we look at B2B innovation, is usually a data-driven type of organization. It either helps people to quicker process data, to take quicker decisions, or to integrate machines and manufacturing capabilities within the value chain. And this then builds that third pillar, and that goes from an infrastructure problem where we have to process and store the data to automated decision making, which is usually AI or ML driven, to the security and governance layers of cybersecurity and like data related, let's say like fair play type of solutions. We're active since 2013. We have 2 offices, one in Munich and one in Berlin. We're 5 people. We invest across Europe, and our companies, when we enter, are usually at a stage where they are between 10 and 20 people, and they want to accelerate for the first time and internationalize. And then internationalization usually means to either go to North America or towards Asian markets.
Okay, that's cool. Thank you very much. So the third guest we invite today is Dr. Richard Buesel, CEO and co-founder of Industrial Analytics. So Richard is building an AI solution to assist the operation and maintenance of industry processes and turbo machinery. So hello, Richard.
Hi, good morning. Yeah, exactly. I'm Richard, and yeah, to share a little bit info about my background, I specialized on acoustics back in the university, then used to work for a machinery manufacturer, MAN, and then we founded the company in 2017 together with 6 other colleagues, and yeah, quite quickly also got some customers out of the industrial space. So it's power stations and the chemicals and refineries are the businesses that we are active. And we managed seed financing with Marcus. So we're one of the portfolio companies from Sinovo. And this we did last year, and yeah, according also with this, we grew our team now to 15 people. And yeah, like you mentioned, it's about assisting the people that run power plants, that run chemical facilities, and with their operation or maintenance. This is the use cases that we're working on. So IoT, building the connections, and building of AI services.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome. So the fourth guest joining us today is Miss Xie Qin from the Administrative Committee of Nanjing Qilin Technology Innovation Park. So Qin is responsible for the preparation plans and the implementation of investment projects for leading industry projects in the park. And she's also responsible for overseas Chinese and foreign related work in the park. So hello, Qin.
Hello.
Welcome. So to further enhance the city's innovation, like openness and global influence, so Nanjing municipal government has decided to hold the Nanjing Tech Week 2020 from June the 22 to 26. So during this week, I know that there are a lot of innovation events organized, and our webinar today is also part of the Nanjing Tech Week. So Jing, could you please briefly introduce about the Nanjing Tech Week for us?
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. From June 22 to 26, Nanjing Municipal Government held the second Nanjing Tech Week. It is also the first time that we organize an online celebration. And in this period, several high-end forum and innovation conference and parallel sessions will be held. Today's event, the T20 Corporation event, is one of them. During the Nanjing Tech Week, we invite guest speakers to share the cutting-edge research with audience all around the world, such as academician Zhong Nanshan, who is a famous respiratory expert, a leading figure in the fight against the SARS and coronavirus disease 2019. Professor Richard Trenbeth, Dean of Medical School, King's College London, and Professor Kate Metzari, employee fellow and expert in wireless communication, who has won the Edwin H. Armstrong Achievement Award in 2003. Nanjing Tech Week connects the domestic and overseas talents, calls for boundless innovation, and creates an effective tech week with great ideas and a warm atmosphere. That's mainly what we would like to share with the audience through this event.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your introduction. So, like one more reminder to our audience. So because we're the webinar mode, so we can only see the profile video of our guests. But for our participants, if you have any questions, if you are using the computer, you can press the Q&A button at the bottom to ask questions. Or if you are using an iPad or phone, you can find the Q&A button on the top. So please feel free to ask questions to our guests. So thanks for participation again. Okay, so originally, as this moment, we're already in Nanjing to attend the offline events. But with the influence of COVID-19, most of our work have shifted online. So many aspects of our life have been influenced. And I have a question for you, our guests, that what are the implications for the business development strategies of your company in the post-pandemic era? So Patrick, can you start first?
Sure. No, I think, any crisis always, has a downfall, but I think it also has a lot of opportunities. And what we've been seeing is that, we run programs all around the world helping startups accelerate. And obviously we could not do this physically anymore. Normally we have teams flying in from China to the Netherlands or from, Milan to New York, or that was not possible. Luckily, about 1.5 years ago, I said, I want to disrupt ourselves. I want to go fully digital and come up with new business models on what we've been doing in the last 10 years. So we started investing heavily in, let's say, an online experience and an online platform where people can connect startups with investors, with potential clients, where there's e-learning, there's a marketplace, there's a community where there's peer-to-peer learning. And we had, before COVID, about 5,000 startups on that platform. Daily interacting, and what we've been seeing is that now that has been growing exponentially. So we see more and more activity on the platform, and our programs now can be run basically centralized from one location. So you don't need to have physical locations anymore. So I think that's what we've seen. I think another opportunity that I'm seeing, unfortunately, it's probably the same in China, but at least definitely here in Europe. There are many companies, large corporations, that have to let go a lot of people. They have to fire a lot of people because the business is just not growing as fast as it did. And I think, when we launched our company in 2010, that was also in the middle of a crisis. So you see a lot of entrepreneurs coming to the market because, they cannot find a job, and the smart ones, they will start a company. So what we did is we started working with some of these large corporations and saying, why don't we educate the people that you have to let go and give them part of the unemployment package, a traineeship on how to build a startup by themselves. So bring people together, because otherwise they will be sitting at home, they will, not be very happy, probably trying to find a new job, which will be hard. So now we're talking to large corporations around the globe to see how we can let the people that they have to let go, how we can reshape them into entrepreneurs to start their own company. And obviously not everybody is an entrepreneur, let me be honest, but there's quite a lot of smart talent out there with large corporations that I'm quite sure that they can be very interested in becoming an entrepreneur. So if you give them the right guidance. So to be honest, I think from our business will come out of this Corona situation and COVID crisis stronger than we were before, because I think it brings many, many opportunities. And the fact that we're now doing things remotely also brings a lot of it's very effective and very efficient, which I think we will continue doing like many others. So that's maybe my long answer to your short question, but it has business impact, but I actually only see opportunities.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. So I always believe that like when people are in adversity or encounter some difficulties, we can always find opportunities in it. So although we're now like influenced by the COVID-19, but it makes us to like reflect about our lifestyles and think about the direction for the future development. And I think which can turn out to be very good things. Yeah. Okay, so Marcus, can you share about your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, like just directly connecting to what you have said, in general, you can say that a crisis accelerates change. So usually if you look at how innovation happens or a change happens, so there's a status quo and that status quo has become inefficient, not the right thing to do anymore, but there's always forces and powers who want to stick with the current state, basically. So when an incumbent, usually the innovative company comes or a new technology or something, they have to, so this is a system basically, which is, you know, like which has power, and that power keeps it in a certain state. And now you have to introduce enough power to make that state change to, you know, like the next level. So overall, what a crisis does, it acts as a change agent, basically. It destabilizes the existing business and encourages people to question whether now it's not the time, you know, like to engage in a new type of behavior product, type of company to work with. So that brings us to the sales side. And on the sales side, I think there is, you know, like one immediate tactical situation, because what also happens in a crisis that people go into panic mode. And panic mode means they're less rational. So when you're in B2B, you usually have an ROI-based sales process. So that's at least how we call it as an investor. So whenever you have a proposal for another business partner, it has to be a clear win. It's not like we will make you more innovative or we will do this and that. These are all like soft arguments. The one question which always ends in a sale is if you can help to generate revenues or if you can help to cut costs. And the benchmarks that we usually apply to this is one, I don't know if this is actually official, but which we call the McKinsey rule, which, you know, like says in terms of folklore that McKinsey charges about 2% of the savings or the additional revenue that a customer will generate for their activities as a strategy consultant. And the other one is what I call the startup rule. It has to be 10 times better. So when you can help a customer to generate 1 million in additional revenues, you can probably charge 100K for your product, vice versa in a cost savings part. Now, when people are in a crisis mode and you're a new sales rep from unknown company, it's really challenging to get their attention. So this might not be the ideal thing. But what you usually have is, at least in our stage, where it's not about, you know, like the first company, but, you know, like you have your 10 to 20 employees, you have gotten a couple of million investment, you have grown from there. So maybe you're now at 30 to 50 employees and you have something between 30 and 100 customers, basically. So there is a lot of relationships which are already existing. And these customers all have the same problem, basically. The problem is, what do we do now with a crisis? And now you can usually engage with existing relationships and put them into a position where they can help their managers, their stakeholders, basically, of their division to successfully handle the situation. And this is where you can create a situation where you can usually massively expand within existing relationships. You should not start or stop doing new sales, obviously, right? That would never be smart. But it's just that the tactical allocation to where you expect money to come from changes a bit. And that brings us to, like, again, then how is that decision made? So you have a crisis, and that crisis means, I don't know, we have to take care that we survive the next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, whatever. Crises are short-term plans. It's not 3 years or 5 years plans. So that means that this ROI needs to have a more or less immediate payoff. If I pitch you, Sherry, and you're, like, having trouble to going out of business, and the software will amortize it in, like 1.5 years. What will you tell me? Well, I'm going out of business maybe in 9 months, or I have a severe problem that I have to lay off people. So in 1.5 years, having a solution is not an interesting thing. But if we can help you, like by, let's say, working it in a startup way, like very quick, very task-oriented, problem-oriented, directly to the solution or the problem that the customer has, I can maybe help you, like within 2 or 3 weeks to establish a collaborative feature, to take Richard's example, so that you can take people out of your chemical plant, send them home, and they monitor your asset base. Now, is that an interesting conversation to have? Absolutely, because you can be absolutely sure that big established vendors will never be able to roll out a feature at that speed. And that then brings us, and so I think the important part is to always have a game plan. So you have to understand the situation, and if you like peel the onion and you work through it step by step, you will, like come to a lot of, let's say, like ingredients. It's like a cooking recipe. Like we have to change communication here. This needs to have this clear payoff. We need to have that product tweak a bit here. How fast can we ship that? And then in a matter of weeks, maybe a month or something, like a startup has usually rearranged and accommodated towards a new situation, and is able then, like with that change agent that I mentioned earlier, to use a crisis as a beneficial thing. So I would say, and you can also see this in the stock market, that these type of innovative B2B cloud companies are a clear winner. I think when the S&P was still down by 15 to 20%, they were already tracking a new all-time high. So it's, like there's a lot of reason to be very optimistic for modern technology companies.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very interesting point. Thank you so much. And Richard, I like rephrase this question a little bit for you. So like, I know that your company, Industrial Analytics, is doing the digital transformation for industry systems. And during the pandemic, is your company facing like more challenges or more opportunities for you?
Yeah, so in the beginning, definitely more challenges, or could refer a little bit how we reacted. So back in January, February, we already decided to really concentrate on the customer bases that we have. So to say, okay, what about the opportunity to roll out bigger systems, or to do upselling for the customers that we have, and to establish or to deepen this relationship there. Of course, it's always when you are selling a product, after you did your sale, then you are within the same boat with your customer. Yeah? So the customer has also a big interest for you to go on. And to see that this, what they already accomplished, will survive and will go on, and this is of course what we concentrated on, and yeah, and talking to new customers was actually really, there was like a completely shutdown for my impression. So you for some months you couldn't get at someone at the phone at all, or there was no response. However, so from my impression now, this changed like a lot. Yeah, so we have now a lot of interest. Of course, we need to approach our potential customers completely in a different way. So before we used a lot of job fairs, yeah, of trade fairs, of personal meetings, and so this is of course not possible anymore. And so we changed this, that we do more the sales via the phone, yeah, so to get the people on the direct contact. And I don't know, probably this is also generally a better idea. This would be something to consider, but the overall impression now is that the people are much more interested in solutions. So I think there's a little bit like a wake up, yeah. So before the business was running good, they were all saying, "Oh, I have no time to do anything," and we are happy that that we are moving so fast and that we are earning a lot of money and we don't want it to have any interference. So what to say? And now they are really open, but of course on the downside, the budgets are costs, yeah, they are cut. So this is, everyone definitely in the chemicals is saying, okay, yeah, we have a shutdown, yeah, so there is no money that we can spend, or little money, and then if they're really interested and so on. So but I think when we see a little bit clearer that we come out of the crisis, and then these budget constraints that are probably in the moment still really strict, they will obviously relax, since everyone will understand that that if they do not invest in the future, then it's they are dead already. So this will relax, and so I think that there will be quite a bounce back thing, and also that the people will invest in new technologies and improving their industry.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. So like as Patrick mentions that like they are shifting a little bit to the like online platform and digitalization, and Marcus is mentioning about like planning it and peel it and like walk through it, figure out the solutions to help the entrepreneurs or help the individuals who are influenced by the pandemic. So from the perspective of the government, Shou-Qin, I have a question for you. So in order to recover from the pandemic, what policies or actions did the Chinese government take in order to help companies develop in the post-pandemic era?
Okay, actually, during the epidemic period, the Chinese government issued a number of policies to support both small, medium-sized enterprises and international firms, and has provided strong help to them. Regarding to that, I would like to share some examples with you guys. There are some comments of several entrepreneurs who have their business in China and strive to recover from the outbreak due to the epidemic. And I think that's more convincing. First of all is Mr. Stephen Kothrad, who is the president and chairman for Greater China of BASF. And he said that the Chinese government has been ramping up monetary and fiscal responses to the COVID-19 pandemic in the past weeks, including increasing export value-added tax refund rates and the direct financial support on employees' social benefits. And most of these measures are targeted at bailout and relief, which have benefited many companies in China, including BASF, to partly offset the negative impact brought by that pandemic. And the second example is from Deloitte. Deloitte is a talent-focused organization, and their vice chair for China, Ms. Jian Ying, confirmed that reduction of the social benefit contribution is the biggest sport, especially during the first quarter of this year, where their business was slower than before. And the third one is the CEO of the Eurasian Resources Group, and he is glad to see the government extended its purchase subsidy on new energy vehicles in April for 2 years to 2022, while the sales of the new energy vehicles in China grew rapidly by 9.7% month on month. It's a strong positive signal for the sector. Briefly speaking, I think different levels of Chinese governments have taken measures to stabilize the business, and the foreign-funded companies are able to enjoy the same treatment as the local businesses. Both local and foreign firms benefit from those measures that helps to relieve burdens and mitigate impacts of the outbreak, such as the subsidies in social insurance and training incentives, and so on.
Okay, thank you very much. So yeah, Chinese government is taking like various actions and measures in order to deal with the pandemic development. So like the pandemic had made people more accustomed to like online work and life, and no matter the public sectors or the companies are all shifting their actions or strategies in order to recover and back to normal. So this kind of shifting will inevitably trigger the digital transformation of not only the business sector, but the entire society. So requiring a strong infrastructure construction suitable for digitalization. So regarding the digitalization or digital transformation, I think that the development of the intelligent infrastructures like 5G will speed up the process. So 5 years ago, while people were talking about the 4G, people would have predicted being able to watch high definition movies on the mobile phone, but no one have predicted the complete explosion of the short video platform, payments with the QR code, and boosting of the live streaming industries. So now we're at the time now that 5G has already been launched and about to widely put to use. So I want to hear about your opinions on what kind of opportunities and challenges will be encountered in the development of the 5G, or even you can just make bold prediction about the future. So Patrick, can you start first?
Yeah, no, sure. On the 5G, it's quite interesting. I think, with every major shift in technology and the amount of data that will be able to be transported through the air, this will create a huge amount of new opportunities, and it will create, trillions of dollars or euros in new businesses for companies that might exist already or might not exist. So I think, there's many new businesses and business models that will be built on top of the 5G. What we do see here in at least in the Netherlands is that, and I don't know how that is in German. So in Germany, this would be a question for me also to Richard and to Marcus, is that there's quite a lot of pushback from the public opinion on 5G. People are actually afraid that it will, because of the radiation and the amount of devices that need to be placed to actually make 5G work, is that the impact will be substantial on the health situation. So there have been all kinds of protests here, and actually there have been burnings of these central units that transport the 5G in the Netherlands. And actually people, it's a bit weird, to be honest, I think. So I come from a completely different perspective, but people make a relationship between the introduction of 5G and the COVID situation, which, to be honest, there's no scientific proof there. It's complete, I wouldn't BS, I would almost say, but still the public opinion is very strong on that, and there have been protests. So I think, with every, with every crisis, but also with every new technology, there's always people that pro and are against. I think the entrepreneurs will eventually leverage, and the large corporations will leverage this new technology. But in general, people are worried, I think. So I think from a government point of view, is also communicate about that, and not only, put maybe the healthcare situation as an important topic, which it is, but also the opportunities that it will bring, for autonomous driving, for AI, the amount of data that will be able to be transported and also to be analyzed will go up tremendously. So, I think actually in the economical downturn that we are seeing now, a 5G introduction can actually help shift and create new opportunities and turn this downturn around quite quickly. So obviously I'm in favor of technology. I'm also in favor of innovation and growth. But I think, governments also and companies have to manage the public opinion in order to make sure that, at least their thinking is not, wow, this will affect my health situation. So I think especially here in Europe, especially in the Netherlands, like I said, I don't know how it is in Germany. In UK, it's been more or less the same. I've heard and I've seen. There are some worries there about on the public opinion side.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. So Marcus, can you share a little bit about the situation in Germany, or what do you know about that?
Yeah, so I completely agree with what Patrick said. I mean, I think from a technical perspective, the advantages are clear, right? I mean, LTE 4G is not sufficient. It was, like a giant step from 3G. which for sure did not allow to play the occasional video, but there is also a lot to wish for. The problem is, on the one hand, what Patrick has already pointed out. So, you know, like now we're replacing a technology stack or a system, and there's other people who are just afraid. So it's not logical, but they're kind of like, do we have to accept this? Has this been proven? And so on and so forth. So I think that's one part to it. But the bigger challenge that I see is, in difference to China, the mobile operators in Europe are usually not state run. So the state often has a large share in them, or at least in parts of them, like Deutsche Telekom, but they don't control them. And so the telco operators see this often as a, you know, like a chance to introduce a kind of premium service. Premium service comes at a higher cost, and that only is available for, you know, like the top tier of customers, basically. So it's a price skimming strategy. And it takes a very long time to go through this price skimming because obviously a private organization's task is to maximize profitability, basically. So it's not optimized for the fast rollout, but, you know, like to generate the most amount of cash. To give you an example, I think just recently, to my knowledge, one of the last operators had said that he's switching 3G contracts now to 4G. I think 4G was introduced 10 or 15 years ago. And so the lowest, you know, like subscribers with the cheapest contracts just now 10 to 15 years later have gotten that shift. So I think this is the scale that we, you know, like have to take in mind when we talk about infrastructure in Europe. And I also think mostly for the US, that maybe in Berlin, we're probably going to see it within the next few years completely rolled out. But in order to be relying on it as in offering a service which requires this type of technology, basically, this is probably more going to be like a 10 years journey. Overall, what will it mean for, you know, like in the long term? I think a complete convergence of network types, basically. So you already have conversions in the cable-oriented connectivity. So nobody really discriminates anymore whether that's an Ethernet or a DSL line, or whether that's a cable line or something with some multiplex running over it. And the same will happen basically with the not physically connected, that it's completely independent how network connectivity is established. And there is, you know, like a multitude of ways of getting it done. And what does that mean at the end? Connectivity also, in terms of, if you look at the business impact, means data, basically. That is why you need to have the connectivity. You can't hold the data in its aggregate on every single, Richard would say, edge node, basically, where the decision has to be taken, but the connectivity allows you to have a backlink and address or access a wider amount of data to make your decision. So that's one, where you have intelligent edges, basically, which work as a hive, basically passing information, and then there is no central location anymore. And the long-term trend, and this is, I think, which ultimately will lead to the, you know, like complete success of 5G and also everything that's going to come past it, is that these data-driven products have usually a way superior product quality as, you know, like not data-driven products, where you have to build some, let's say, like rules, which are models and really bad models, basically, of reality. And data reflects reality, and therefore, these type of products win over the long term and create more demand, and win and create more demand, and it's a vicious cycle.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for sharing. I think that like the development of 5G maybe can benefit like Richard's field a lot. So Richard, could you please share a little bit about your thoughts on the development of the 5G?
Yeah, of course. Probably Patrick's also one comment. So from my perspective there on the public opinion, so I think in Germany, the height of this being afraid of the radiation discussion was like 1 or 2 years ago in Germany. So it's already, so from my impression, it's a little bit more relaxed now. All the in the newspapers, they're more discussing the thing that the infrastructure is actually not in that good shape, which was probably a consequence of this discussion. But okay, this is for the general public opinion. So for our business in concrete, it's like this. We or you probably know that AI service relies a lot of feedback. Yeah, so you need labeled, annotated data. So you need the information, what actually parts of the data are okay, which are not okay. So you need some feedback to build a good AI service, which actually really helps the operators there. And to assist this, we have like a mobile interface where if you do your inspection walk through the plant, you can have in a structured way, you can get your feedback about the situation in the plant. And this we can use to enhance our service. So this is like a part of the offering from Industrial Analytics, and yeah, it's a mobile device. So to walk around in your chemical plant or your power station, which are then typically already very large premises, so around several kilometers. Or if you talk aloud about BASF, for example, you know that here Leverkusen, it's really more like a town, not a small town, but a big town. What the space that they use. And yeah, and in the moment we typically use their Wi-Fi. So to do this, so they put out a lot of Wi-Fi nodes around their plant, so to make this usable. And of course, putting their 5G instead, so like a private 5G from the company. Yeah? So this would be really something that makes things like this. Yeah. Building like mobile inspection in the plant digitally enabled, or additional sensors that don't need a cable attached to them, so that they talk to a monitoring service. So all these things can be much cheaper. And so what I want to point out is that does not need to be like the public 5G that is spread over the whole city. What you can also do is like a 5G as a company. And yeah, your private thing compared to your Wi-Fi net. And this is actually something really interesting to speed up the digital transformation in such industrial parts. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for sharing. Patrick, I have a question for you, because I found that in the Q&A sessions, and there is a question from Jimmy, and he's asked that he's just curious about how would digitalization had to enter such a pandemic situation. And as I know that you're really building your empire in the innovation ecosystem, like gathering entrepreneurs, startups, scale-ups, and even big companies. And from your YouTube channel, I found that last year you have talked with some of the chief digital officer from the large organization like PwC. So they're also seeking some digital transformation. So my question is how can both startups and large organizations can benefit from the digital transformation? And as Jimmy just asked that, how would digitalization had to enter such pandemic situation?
No, good question. You know, what we obviously see is that, startups and scale-ups are already digital natives by themselves. They're entrepreneurs and so I don't see any transformation there happening. It's already part of their operating system. If you look at large corporations, is very different, right? They have a lot of legacy there. They have a lot of debt, cultural debt, business debt, technical debt. So it's all things. It's all legislative systems. And what we see is now that the need, and I think this is also what Marcus and Richard just explained, the need for companies to digitally transform even quicker than they were already supposed to has only grown. And the sense of urgency has actually only become bigger. That's what we're seeing. And then you have two directions. You can digitally transform internally, by creating new business models, new technology, so do all the innovation internally, or you can do it through open innovation, like Richard is explaining with the basically the systems that he's developing, and what Marcus is doing with the B2B SaaS solutions. And what I see now, what I really see happening more faster than ever, is that there's a bigger need for global corporations to tap into the ecosystems of startups and scale-ups and look at open innovation. because the amount of speed that we're generating in digital transformation is so high that you cannot do everything by yourself. You can also not do it with large other corporations, you know, like Microsoft and Accenture, and you know, there's millions and billions of investments going to these companies. Why I see that smart startups that are agile, that can move quickly, that really solve a specific problem, can integrate the solution within 3-4 weeks and actually immediately prove the ROI that they're building for your company. Exactly like Marcus also explained. So looking at that ROI and looking at a corporate, what has already been developed out there by smart startups and scale-ups, and leveraging that technology is something that I've been seeing, especially I would say in the last 2 months, accelerating quite rapidly. And I think this is a huge opportunity for the startups and the scale-ups, but definitely also for the corporate organizations, and that they're opening up and leveraging basically that technology and the business models that startups and scale-ups have already developed, instead of doing things just internally or going to these large companies that will put a bunch of consultants behind it and charge you large amounts of money, but it will take you a year or maybe even longer to actually benefit from the technology that is being
But the consultant has to make a living as well.
Sorry?
I was just joking, but the consultant has to make a living as well.
I know, but if they perform, I have no problem, right? With that they have to make a living. But you know, I just think that often we also look at sometimes at corporates and they're working with these large consultants like Accenture, and you know, and I'm not trying to downplay them, because you know they're also sometimes partners in our programs. So I have to be a little bit careful what I say. But in general, you know, the amount of money that they charge, the amount of time that it takes for something actually at value, to be honest, you know, it's quite a long time. While I see startups and scale-ups, you know, implementing solutions within 4 and 6 weeks and immediately contributing to the pain that a corporate is seeing or an opportunity that is seeing. So I truly believe in corporate startup collaboration, and especially on the scale-up side. You know, early stage startups, it might be a bit scary for corporates to work with, but if you're scaling up and you've proved that you can actually work with a large organization, I think there's lots of benefits which many corporates currently are not leveraging. That's a shame, but I see that it's changing.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for sharing. Yes, thank you for your answer. So we just talk about like 5G, for the benefits or opportunities for it, like high speed, low latency, or higher connection density. Like 5G can support like a lot of areas, like national, like energy transformation, or increase the automotive safety and efficiency, or even driving the manufacturing transformation, and even bring health to everyone. So we can take advantage of it. And with the help of 5G, like many industries and companies will be boosted or even be interrupted. Okay, so according to the Chinese Academy of the Information and Communications Technology, so China's investment in 5G network construction will reach 1.2 trillion RMB in aggregated by 2025, and is expected to leverage about 3.5 trillion RMB of investment in the upstream and downstream of the industry chain, as well as in other areas. So like such amount of investment spent in the new infrastructure relevant industries, because new infrastructure recently is defined by the top economic planner in China as the new driving force for the economy. So my question is that, I'll briefly introduce about the new infrastructure, because it is like recently defined by the Chinese like top economic like planner. So mainly the new infrastructure includes 3 aspects. So the first aspect is the information-based infrastructure, such as 5G and IoT. And the second aspect is the converged infrastructure, supported by the application of the internet, big data, and artificial intelligence, such as smart transportation and smart energy infrastructure. And the third aspect is the innovative infrastructure that supports scientific research, technology development, and product development. So my question for you is that, like, what do you think is the new driving force of the economy in Europe? And what is your opinion on China's like new infrastructure action? So Patrick, can you start first?
I have to go first all the time.
Yeah, you get some tough questions and we just pile on. We agree.
Yeah, okay. That's good. I'm very happy with my friends in Germany. No, I think, you know, obviously technology is a driving force, but let's be honest. You know, this is all about entrepreneurship. I don't know if you know, Sherry, but about 85% of economical growth in Europe was created by companies that did not exist five years ago, right? So you can develop technology, super relevant, but you know, it's still people that are driving these technologies, right? To develop these technologies, to develop new business models, to develop all that stuff. So, you know, and if you look again at what happened 10, 20 years ago, also during crisis, the biggest companies in the world that are currently on the technology side were built during those crises, right? So there's a huge opportunity again, and I can only repeat this on the entrepreneurial side. So entrepreneurship will drive growth, and it will drive companies, and it will drive economies. Secondly, the second driving force, I think, is going to be very much on the sustainability side. I think this is a huge topic. Obviously, you know, you can have 5G and autonomous driving and, you know, electric driving, but, you know, sustainability is something that is really at the core of driving innovation. And we really need to change a few things on our planet, and sustainability is one of them. You know, in 2016, the UN defined the sustainability goals for the next 10 years. And what I'm seeing now, since the last 2-3 years, is that global corporations are actually spending billions really in sustainability to become more sustainable as a producer, as a manufacturer, as a distributor. So sustainability is the second topic next to entrepreneurship, which is also related to entrepreneurship, sustainability, because you see a lot of companies now, startups and scale-ups also play in that domain. And thirdly, obviously, it is the infrastructure that it will accelerate new business models and will boost consumption. So I think it's in these three levels, but I think it starts with entrepreneurship, then plugging into sustainability, and then the technology layer underneath that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for sharing. So how about Marcus?
So to build on what Patrick has said, the question is always which perspective, right? Do you take a, let's say, like a macroeconomic perspective or a governance perspective? Our, you know, like business is supporting entrepreneurs, people who have a innovative idea and want to build a successful business on it. So for us, infrastructure is something which is, you know, like super important. If we can't rely on infrastructure, we can't run business, like any environmental factor. And this is also where sustainability plays a role. If we have an unstable environment or an unstable society, then we have a big problem. We can't launch a business, and building a startup, a successful startup, is, you know, like a 10 years journey. So you have to have a lot of stability. Where we don't see a lot of entrepreneurship potential is actually in the infrastructure per se. Just a very, very small box. So if you are a researcher in the telco space and you have some type of, I don't know, let's just call it, it's wrong in technical terms, but for simplicity, let's call it a new compression algorithm. So you can put more data through the wire. And you own the IP to that. That's fantastic, and it will make you a lot of money. It's basically the ARM business model, where you just create the processor, but you don't actually manufacture it. So this is how an entrepreneur can play within infrastructure. Otherwise, what he does is he builds on top of the infrastructure, and you're like, he seizes an opportunity. To give you something as an example, which for me is like a pretty clear thing, if we look at how smart cars work and how they develop a route, then basically all data gets pooled in these days probably on Google servers, and then you see that there's a congestion on the highway, and then it will route you like on the second best route, and once that is congested, it routes you on the third best route. The problem is that this is a reactive system, and it's reactive because there's a delay of reporting that information and crunching that data and then taking a derived decision on it, basically. So if we look at swarm intelligence, then we could actually have cars communicating to each other, because we all know if everybody takes, because of the congestion, the same highway exit, basically, just the smaller side will be equally congested. So you have to splits basically the people going off of the highway to take the 3 off ways from the highway, basically leading into that congestion. And that will only work when cars can have like inter-car communication and take autonomous decision in the context how the swarm is behaving. It's like a swarm of birds, basically. They all behave in the same thing, but individually, basically, they have not so clearly predictable paths. So something like this is something like an entrepreneur can solve, basically. I mean, a car is not a difficult thing because from an entrepreneur's perspective, it's a proprietary platform that you need to have access to. But this is where your like smart devices, like mobile phones, for example, can play a massive change, because now all of a sudden you have like this small window accessible through an app store where you can bring in third-party innovation without having it, you're like whitelisted by BMW or Mercedes or Toyota or somebody else. So these are like the types of opportunity that I see brought or enabled by infrastructure. But I think just gunning after that infrastructure with billions of cash requirement, like not even a venture fund like us can finance several billion basically in startup costs and rolling out antennas and masts and whatnot.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for sharing. So how about Richard? What's your opinion on the new infrastructure and the driving force?
Yeah, so I just want to comment on a different or on an effect that I see there on what 5G will bring to the table. So I think how the internet works in the moment, this will change. Yeah. So at the moment you have a lot of large centers where all the servers are located and all the data is aggregated there. Yeah? So if they are at Amazon servers or at Google or whatever, Alibaba, and I think with the increase of data that is supplied there, so it will not be able to, or it's not the best idea anymore to use this central infrastructure. So you will have much more edge computing what you need. So really, it's probably a little bit like the power grid. Yeah. So you do not have like in the whole of China 2 or 3 power stations. No, you have 2, 3, 4 power stations in each big city, or even more. And so this is what will happen. Yeah. So to leave this way to have a little amount of centralized data centers, but to really have edge computing. So to do that the game, for example, the people are playing, it's not running anymore the centralized services for the game on a central infrastructure. So 1 or 2 in China or so, but it's next to the 5G antenna, yeah, or to probably 5, 20, 30 in the town or something like this. And so this obviously makes on the back end a big change. Yeah? So if you want to think about what to invest and what will be the technology change, this is of course something completely different if you have a centralized multi-tenant service, 2, 3 of them operating the whole system, or if you have thousands, 10,000s of services distributed like an edge computing service. So I think this will be something that changes there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for sharing. So actually I have a question for Qin. So I think she's connecting. Okay, so Marcus, I have an additional question for you, maybe at the moment. So like the construction of the new infrastructure is completely different from the traditional ones. So besides hardware, it also involves software and services. So like what are, like as an how to say, like which are not easy to evaluate in the investment process and are updated very quickly, especially for the very early stage of the startups. So as an active investor focusing on the early stage investment, B2B SaaS and IoT, so what do you value most when evaluating projects or startups in this stage? Maybe just like keep it short, like what do you value most?
Do you mean if they have a combination between hardware and software and services?
The software part.
Okay. I mean, So a software is an intangible good, basically. So what we look at and when we evaluate a software is the impact that it can deliver for a customer, and that impact the customer usually votes for with dollars, basically, right? So we set the relation, or we establish a relationship between economic potential, basically an effort that we need to access the economic potential, and that effort is usually on the one hand qualified in euros or dollars, again, how much sales efforts did it take, but also time, basically. And I think these are the two most important numbers, and then there's an optimization function from there.
Okay, thank you very much. So Qing, I have a question for you. So can you hear us clearly?
Yeah. Now I can hear you.
Okay, so like as we know that like Beijing is the capital city of China, and it's also the political and cultural center, and Shanghai is the economic center. So, and the cities in the southern areas like Shenzhen or Guangzhou is also booming in the innovation atmosphere. So can you give some key facts about the advantages of Nanjing over other cities in China?
Okay, talking about Nanjing, first of all, I would like to share the results of the latest general survey as the COVID-19 hit the world economy. The National Business Daily rolled out in May a city economic recovery index, evaluating the economic recovery rates of 335 Chinese cities by comparing millions of data from small and medium-sized enterprises based in these cities. And regarding to the recovery score, Nanjing ranked the third among the Chinese cities, which shows the high resilience of Nanjing's economy. And Nanjing is an important city in eastern China and one of the Yangtze River Delta's megacity. It covers an area of over 6,600 square kilometers and has a resident population of 8.3 million. We have nearly 2,500 years of which as a city and nearly 500 years as a capital. Nanjing is a national forest city with a greening rate of 45%. Nanjing South Railway Station is the largest railway station in Asia, and the Lukou International Airport is one of the world's largest airports. The port of Nanjing is the largest river sea transit port along the Yangtze River. And Nanjing has 45 universities and colleges, ranked third in China. In the list of the Global Research City in 2019, published by the British supplement Nature, Nanjing was ranked the 12th. And as the One Belt, One Road Not city, Nanjing has established economic and trade ties with more than 213 countries and regions. Beijing and Shanghai took the first and second spot in the metropolitan area ranking, followed by Shenzhen and Guangzhou. And they have developed economy. The cost of living is relatively high, as well as people and industries are spreading to the surrounding area. Nanjing is following the first Thai city to present the trend of external expense on space and industry with a GDP of over 1 trillion RMB. Nanjing has developed industrial agglomeration, especially in electronic engineering, software and information services, smart grid, petrochemical, rail transportation, and automobile. Nowadays, we are facing the future and focusing on integrated circuits, intelligent manufacturing, new energy vehicles, artificial intelligence, and the biomedical health. Besides, the cost of living is relatively acceptable in Nanjing, which guarantees a good quality of life. The metropolitan area will be the main region driving China's social and economic development in the future, and the Yangtze River Delta is one of the most important metropolitan areas. Both Nanjing and Shanghai are playing leading roles in this planning and cultivating industries and creating jobs. Come to Nanjing, you will find more opportunities here.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your introduction. A little bit to wrap up. So thank you guys for sharing your insights today. And as we're running out of time, so we can wrap up our discussion. And like one last question for each of you. So could you please, each of you, give one piece of advice for startup or scale up who want to go to China? One piece of advice, maybe Qing, can you start first?
Okay. Actually, in most industries, other than a few exceptions, including the high-speed railway and 5G, China still occupies a limited market share compared with the developed countries. And China is now balancing the relation between the promoting independent technological innovation and introducing outside technological resources. And the Chinese companies are interested in cooperation with the foreign partners. I think here lies the opportunity. And a visit to Jilin is warmly welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. Like as the Jilin Technology Innovation Park has also like provided a lot of services to help the foreign startups for the soft landing program. Okay, so maybe Patrick first.
Yeah, no, we have a program together with you, Sherry. So, you know, bringing our alumni to China. So I would say either call Sherry, that would be my advice, if you want to go to China, or call me, and we will together help you to get a soft landing into China and see how China and the companies there and the government can support the startups and the scale-ups.
Okay, thanks for your advice. How about Marcus?
I would say evaluate that opportunity seriously. Almost all startups look at American-oriented business when they're coming from Europe, and I think there are like a few industries where actually the Chinese opportunity is much more interesting. It's a less trodden path, but like there's people like you who make that ecosystem accessible. And so I can only encourage to evaluate that and like enable us to do more business together.
Okay, thank you very much. How about Richard? One piece of advice?
Yeah, the question, of course, is: do you have some hardware that you want to produce in China, or do you want to really use this as a market? And then I would also think that if it's about industry and infrastructure, then this is probably a really good idea. And yeah, otherwise the advice obviously is call you and then do a nice trip to China. Look on Nanjing. This is definitely a good idea.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm very glad to talk with you today for some hot topics like post-pandemic development, 5G, and new infrastructure. So very enlightening with your valuable experience, brilliant ideas, and useful advice. So thank you again for having all of you here, Patrick, Marcus, Richard, and Chin. Thank you very much. And thank you all for our audience for joining us today. So let's keep in touch and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
So bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.